Hi, dreamers. I'm going to do something a little bit different today because I've been pretty busy with holiday parties, Christmas cards, and my holiday shopping. So today I'm going to go through my monthly investment income total of over $22,000. But I'll start with the high level and show you some summaries of where I made the most money this year and some of the learnings from that. So let's dig in as I give you a top-down look of where I am at in November. So as you can see, in November 2025, I made $16,307 in dividends. And if you've been following me all year, you know that I started out with about $10,000 in dividends and have been steadily optimizing that and increasing it over the course of the year, culminating in about $16,000 a month towards the end of this year. And for options, I made just over $6,000 as I took my foot off the gas a little bit in October and November and started to take a little bit of risk off the table because, quite frankly, I've made good money this year and I don't want to give back some of the gains right at the end. So instead of going through the details this time, I want to show you the summary of where I made the most money this year. And so in dividends and interest, here's my top 15 places that I made the most money this year. And the first one is JEPQ, which, as you know, I used to have about $250,000 in JEPQ at the height, but since then made a video comparing JEPQ to some of the other newer and in some ways more sophisticated covered call ETFs that I've been rotating out of JEPQ and into this year. And two of those include SPY-I and QQQI. So it's no surprise that these gained traction in my portfolio this year. I made a good amount in my only bond fund of PTY. And believe it or not, the next biggest spot that I made money was simply interest from holding cash. And as a reminder, that's the same cash that I use for my cash secured puts. And so I'm making interest while I hold the money and also making options while I leverage the money on those contracts, which is a concept that I covered a few different times, talking about that double dip strategy that I was going to try this year that worked out pretty well. I made about $6,000 in Devo and also about $6,000 in the JPX Goldman Sachs product. I made about $5,000 in TLTP, which is a fund that should have been extremely safe and worked out really well, except for the fact that the United States interest rate strategy did not play out how I thought it was going to. And so I've since rolled out of a lot of funds that I considered too close to the interest rate volatility, which unfortunately also included PDI. But in any case, I made over $4,000 with PDI and about $4,000 with BTI. I made about $2,700 with IYRI, focused on real estate, and $2,500 from Maine. I made another $2,400 from the Goldman Sachs GPIQ product, and then another couple $1,000s from a cash holding. And in the last position of the top 15, STWD, a commercial real estate fund that I've held for many, many years. And so in 2025, this represents over $90,000 of the total that I've received so far in dividends and interest. So let's take a look at options. Well, in my options account, in terms of the top 15, in the number one spot, we have Avgo. And if you recall, in the very beginning of this year, I declared that Avgo was going to be my number one dividend growth pick for 2025. And I followed up with putting my money where my mouth was by continually doing cash secured puts against Avgo all year long and made about $21,000. I made about $9,000 with options on ALAB, just under $7,000 with Credo, about $5,000 with CLS, and about $4,000 with MUTSM and Amazon. Now, amazingly, I made about $3,500 just on a couple of contracts with FICO because I tried to take advantage of a very dark day for FICO earlier this year, and it panned out. I made about $3,000 writing contracts against Google, Qualcomm, ANET, and Marvel, and about $2,500 with options contracts on Cintas and BRKB. And what's interesting is, for example, this $2,500 on Cintas were all covered call contracts. And lastly, about $2,000 in contracts against Apple. And so my top 15 options targets in 2025 represent about $76,500 against the total. So now let's take a look at the cumulative investment income chart to see where I am at in the 11th month of 2025. All right, so as of November 2025, my all-in dividend income in 2024 was $104,243. And as of November 2025, I am officially at $155,640 just in dividends. But with options and interest, my all-in total as of November is $266,078. Now, what's interesting about this journey this year is that I've learned a lot about myself as an investor. I've had a lot more time to devote to research. And this year I executed a very different strategy and options than what I did last year. And I'll summarize my learnings by saying the following. One thing that's really helped me this year is to bucketize my strategies. So I had accounts dedicated to just income and other accounts dedicated to pure growth. I had one account focused on broad traditional investments that were on the safer side, and another account specifically dedicated to options. And I think that really helped me focus as I understood what purpose the holdings in each account were meant to do. I also learned to trust my gut a little bit more, especially when I had the time to deep dive into research, which helped me gain confidence on some of the stock picks to purchase or write options contracts against, and also take a little bit more risk on around earnings. I think next year I'll have a little bit of a blend of the two strategies, because in 2024 my option strategy was a lot more conservative and based on broad indices. And the other thing I wanted to say is we've had a lot of brand new covered call or income ETFs thrown at us this year. And I think we're starting to see some of the winners pop out. And so now there's an opportunity to optimize towards those winners and let them run in the long term. But all in all, dreamers, I'd summarize by saying this. My goal was to hit between $250,000 and $300,000 this year. And it looks like I've met that goal with the strategies that I've put in place for this year. And think about it, you've watched me do it every step of the way. And so I hope you've benefited from my journey. I can't wait to wrap this up and see where I net out at the end of December. I'd love to know how you're doing this year. Let me know some of your winning strategies in the comments. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this dividend income update. And if you want a richer, real-time experience with me, you can always follow me on Instagram or X. And if you're doing your own research using Seeking Alpha, feel free to find the link below to subscribe if you want, no pressure. As always, I encourage you to do your own research, then implement and learn by putting it into practice. And as a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor, so keep in mind these videos are for entertainment and inspiration only. I'll see you on the flip side.